It's been a blessing. Well, thank you for having me here. Am I too close to the mic?
Too loud.
Too loud? Good. Okay. So let me know if it starts to echo. But I'm honored to be here with you this morning. I want to, before I start, I want to share stories with you. There, in this slide here are 3 pictures, and the 3 different stories of girls. So Sarah Kuzan was 11 years old when she met a very charismatic guy who was about 20 years her senior. And this person convinced Sarah that he can take care of her. And basically she, between the ages of 13 and 16 years old, she was sold by him in commercial sex. And at 16 years old, she killed him. She shot him. And Sarah now is serving life in prison at Tortilla prison. And she's been there for 17 years and will be there for a long time. Bridget Gray was a very energetic girl. And at 14 years old, her friends convinced her that this is, recruited her basically into an escort service. And at 22, she was strangled to death by one of her customers, and her dead body was left in a motel hallway. And the last one is Carissa Phelps. Carissa was abandoned by her parents in Fresno, and she, at the same day she was abandoned, she was picked up by a pimp who basically said, "You take care of me, I'll take care of you." And for the next 2 years, she was being sold by him. Carissa was lucky. She escaped by being imprisoned in the juvenile hall, and that's when she was able to really find some support from caring adults. And now Carissa graduated from UCLA with her MBA and JD, and she's now an attorney and an advocate for children. These are 3 real stories, and these are the fates of the victims that we face today. And I'm going to go through some of my slides really quick, and then what I want to talk about is really my personal journey into this as well. And so human trafficking is a global issue. It's a global human rights issue.
Amen.
Depending on what numbers you quote, there's between 12 to 27 million slaves in this world. 80% of them are children and women. And it's a $32 billion business. It's the second largest and fastest growing criminal enterprise in this world. And in the U.S., we're not immune from this as much as we want to be. There are over 100,000 minors who are at risk of being sold for sex in this country every year. And their age, like Carissa said, was 12 to 14 years old. And of course, there are foreigners being brought here as well. And recently, there's an organization that put out a report card on our laws against child sex trafficking, particularly. And our state got an F grade on that, on the lack of laws that we have in protecting our children against this crime. And you can see this on our, if you want, you can email me. It's on the Share Hope International website as well. It's a new report card that just got released December 1st. I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly, and so I can leave some time for questions as well. The issue that they pointed out, there are a couple of ways, the demand issue. There's very little to address the demand of this. But the other issue that's really been in California and as well as in our nation is the fact that victims are often mistreated as criminals. And this is the reason why Carissa was in jail, instead of the man who put her out there, who was exploiting her, or other men that she was serving. And she was 12 to 14 years old during that time. The second thing that was really difficult is that it's really hard to prosecute, right? And that's why traffickers really do their business with impunity, because it's difficult to first of all arrest them, because they're always behind the scenes, right? And it's also difficult to prosecute them because the victims are usually in fear of them. And the last thing is, even when the traffickers are prosecuted, and the victims had the strength to testify against them in our court, which usually gives the victims a hard time. If you guys been through our court system, you know that the victims are often traumatized through the whole process. And even if they do that, traffickers don't get that much time. They don't. I mean, none of the men who did what they did to these 3 girls, none of them went to jail for what they did to them. They may have gone to jail for other things, like robbery, drug trafficking, but not for what they've done to these girls. And so it gets left in the hands. So of course, if you are in any business, then you know that if low risk, high reward, what happens, right? It flourishes. And that's why we are at this pinnacle in our history where there are more slaves in this world than any other time in history. It's because of this. Because of the impunity of it and how much profit is involved in it. All right, I want to stop here and talk about, we're going to jump into California Against Slavery and what we're doing. So I started California Against Slavery with the vision that fighting human trafficking is everybody's responsibility, because it's a human rights issue. It's dignity of the human being that's being exploited. And as humans, we have to be involved in this. And that's why I started this organization really trying to bring California together to fight this issue. Because just like in the video about the world peace, it really involves everybody. So is this issue. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. It's a human rights abuse that violates not just the external person, the physical person, but the soul of the person as well. And a friend of mine recently asked me about, how can I actually sleep knowing all these things, right? And I said, well, because she said, I couldn't sleep, I cry every night thinking about all these kids out there. And I told her, I was like her too. I mean, for 2 years, I felt like this guy who was in the chimney got stuck. I don't know if you had heard the story about yesterday a guy got stuck in the chimney for 90 minutes. Well, I felt like him for 2 years. I feel like I might have my legs dangling down the chimney, and I really wanted. I mean, I've been so passionate about this. I don't know what to do. I don't know. All I could do is cry for 2 years. But now I don't cry anymore. It's because I see the hope. I see people like Carissa, right? And it's like, wow, here's someone who triumphed over her tragedy and who's actually helping other people. And I don't cry anymore. It's also because I know that what could happen when people come together and do something about this. And that's why it comes to the California Against Slavery initiative. Actually, it's called the California Against Sexual Exploitation Act. And it's actually a joint venture between California Against Slavery, which is the organization I'm with, and the Save the California Foundation. And it's been a miracle because about 2 years ago, we actually circulated our petition once. And we were a bunch of volunteers, very passionate, lots of passion, not a lot of experience. And we weren't able to get it on the ballot, and we soon realized that everything costs money. Yes, I know. It costs, for a finance person to realize that everything costs money was a big shocker for me. And, and anyway, we finally, after a year or so of fundraising, find Save the California Foundation, which is started by Chris Kelly. And so we actually right now have the funding to put this initiative on the ballot. Now, it's really awesome.